I'm Lindsay Landman. My company is Lindsay Landman Events. I have been producing weddings and special events for about 13 years. I started my company in 2001. And I say I'm the producer of pretty parties. We do all sorts of events, but all of them have something in common, which is that there's always an aesthetic component. So as opposed to a meeting or a trade show, something like that, we're always involved in the business of parties and celebrations. We are a fully integrated planning, design, and production firm. So really what that means is that we work with our clients on all the logistical components of their events, as well as all of the aesthetic components of our events. And then we also have an in-house production team, so everything that we can dream up, we can bring to life. Okay, down to business. Who is this course for? It's great for someone who is working in the world of events and maybe isn't necessarily in the design aspect of events, but wants to be able to know the lingo, communicate better about the design component of events, be able to understand their clients' needs better, understand to communicate with vendors better, to just really have sort of the know-how and the tools to be more helpful in their current job or in their current role on the planning side of events, just by knowing a little bit more about sort of the heart and the soul of what event design is. This course is also great for those of you who are currently working as planners who want to really maybe include more of the creativity in your work, or maybe transfer from some of that logistical work into more of the creative work. So maybe a wedding planner who's looking to also do event design as part of what they offer, or someone working in the corporate world who wants to really create that as a greater focus for themselves or their company. And then this course, I believe, is also great for those of you who are already working in design, who really just want to broaden your scope and deepen your skills. I think that many of us are, at least in some capacity, self-taught in design. And so I think with that in mind, it's always great to bring in other perspectives and other points of view so that you can learn even more about the work that you do. So starting with week one, this is the big picture concepts and sort of big picture on creativity. So this is really the fundamentals, the building blocks of event design. What it is, how it works, why we have it, talking a little bit about functional and aesthetic design. When do things need to be pretty and when do they need to just work, and how does design function in each of those capacities? I want to talk a little bit about the key pillars for my success in design, as well as what is successful design in a more objective way, where I find and where others find inspiration, and how to sort of find your own voice and your own style throughout this big wide world of all these different options of design. Week two is really a keystone week for this course because I present what I call the designer's toolbox. So these are all the tricks of the trade, I suppose, the real key components to building a great event design, and what each of these things are and how they get implemented, sometimes separately, but most oftentimes together. And I always say, in every job or for every client, I'm not using every tool in the toolbox, but I need to have everything at my disposal and really understand how to use them all in order to create a really holistic and complete design. So everything from lighting and flowers to how to use entertainment as a design component, and how to use gifting as part of your overall design. So week two gives you sort of all the building blocks for all of the weeks to come. One really important tool that we dig into a little bit more deeply is color. So week three is all about designing with color. So we start with some of the color theory basics, like what is the color wheel and how does it work? What are the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors? How to work with hues, tints, and tones. Talking about how to pair colors together, how to create color palettes for our client. And then talking about perceptions and communication about color. This is probably one of the most challenging things for any designer in any design discipline, whether it's events, floral design, interior design, branding design, anything. It's how do I see something the same way that you see that same something, because there's so much about emotional response and perceptions of color. So learning the language and learning some of the lingo that goes with color really helps us to be great communicators about color. Week 4 is actually presented in 2 different parts. So part 1 is all about the live and fresh components of event design, flowers, trees, and greens. So one of the things that I found early in my career is that so many of my clients associated decor with flowers. Like everything, someone would set the colors for a bat mitzvah and it was all about what flowers were going to be in the centerpiece of the table. Nothing else seemed to matter except how you're going to match the flowers to your color palette or how you're going to match the tablecloth to your color palette. So I do firmly believe that flowers and trees and greens and other live components are, an important core element of event design. But they're not the only one, which is the whole essence of the designer's toolbox, having all these different things at our disposal to use. But anyway, we'll take a really broad look at how to talk about flowers, different types of flowers, not necessarily bloom by bloom, but category by category. Some do's and don'ts in how to present floral ideas and talk about flowers. And then all of the different ways that we can use things that are alive but not necessarily flowers. So trees, greens, branches. There's so much. This world is so big, and there's so much really creative and interesting stuff we can do. So this is really just a little bit of a taste. The second part of week 4 is the flip side of flowers, which is non-floral decor. And this can be anything from your candles and lighting to printed pieces to how you design your tabletop, any installations that we create in the room. Non-floral decor is like a 10 times bigger world than floral decor, and part of what we'll talk about is how to educate our clients about the power of non-floral decor when the opportunity is right. The first part of week 5 is about branding. So branding is a word that is often associated with corporate work, and it certainly is a crucial element to designing any corporate event, because most companies do have really specific branding guidelines, which we would talk about, in color guidelines, and how we as event designers, when working with each of these corporate clients, can understand their brand and understand how it needs to be conveyed in the context of an event, and how we can use some of our event tools and our design tools to explore and express a company's brand. But what's interesting about branding is how in the last 5 to 10 years, the concept of branding has really transitioned from being strictly in the corporate world to really being so present in the social event world. So now we're creating complete brands for all of our social events, weddings, bar mitzvahs, birthdays, that include logos and color palettes, and really branding guidelines the same way we do for corporate. So we're going to talk a lot about how to develop that and how to implement that in our event work. And also in week 5, we talk about one of my very favorite topics, which is lighting. So I address both of the aesthetic and the technical components of lighting to a degree. So certainly how to use it and how it's perceived, how different colors play into lighting and textures play into lighting is very important. But we also do a cursory overview of the different types of fixtures, the different types of installations, and really some of the key points that you need to know when thinking about lighting as part of event design. Week 6 takes a small, quick break from all the beautiful pictures to talk about some really important logistics, which is how to put together a floor plan, how to plan the space, and how to use it to your advantage when creating a great design. Really, how the space is laid out and the way that you use your furniture and the way to use the existing fixtures, that's really such a key fundamental component to building a great design, because you can really use the room and all the components within it to your advantage and to your client's advantage to better express the design in so many ways. Also part of week 6 is talking about rigging, installation, and fabrication. This is the fun stuff and this is the hard stuff. This is really about, first of all, what all these things are, and how to go about considering implementing a completely custom item that doesn't exist in the world and that hasn't been built before, or that needs to be custom built because of whatever other parameters go with the event that you're producing. So we'll talk a little bit about the logistics, a little bit how to use these elements, and then of course the most important is what factors you need to consider when thinking about rigging or putting in an installation. In week 7, I take you through all the different types of venues that are available to us. Not necessarily specific venues in different cities or different countries, but categorically the different types of venues that are available. So everything from ballrooms and museums to lofts and tents. And I definitely spend a fair amount of time going through the different types of tents, because this is a piece of the puzzle where we know that our clients are relying very heavily on us, and tents are very technical. It's really like building a temporary home or a temporary building for an event. So it's really important to be a successful designer to have a strong understanding of some of the different components of tenting, pros and cons, and so many other elements that we'll really dive into in week 7. Also in week 7, we talk about production. And this is, I think, a word that is misunderstood and misused within our industry so often, certainly amongst ourselves, amongst the professionals in the industry, and also very much so amongst our clients and other vendors. So the idea that there is a very defined difference between design and production. Design is the creativity, design is the imagination, it's the vision, it's the idea, and the production is what brings that all to life. So week 7 is very much about understanding the difference between design and production, and how to translate, how to go about the process of translating a great idea, a great design, into the real thing that we get to actually manifest in real life. And finishing up in week 8 is all about how to work with our clients in so many capacities. So how to talk to them and understand what they want and who they are. How to communicate in a written capacity with our clients. I'll share with you my proposals as well as some other of my colleagues in the industry, and talk about sort of the different ways you can approach proposals with clients. Talking about the communication process as a whole. And then, of course, the thing that everybody wants to know is about budgeting and pricing. So this really addresses both how you, as an event designer in the industry, can price your services, but also how we can talk to our clients about creating a realistic budget and implementing a realistic budget, and how that really fits into our role. So that's the whole shebang, all in 8 weeks. A little bit about how the course actually works. So each week, I present 1 to 2 hours of content. It's going to be uploaded to the learning module system, and it will always be sort of in smaller chunks or smaller chapters. I'm never going to give you 2 hours of content right in a row. It's usually broken up into different sections in varied lengths. So these modules can include everything from just me narrating to you as I'm doing right now with these slides. Sometimes there's some videos. We always include assignments each week. The function of the assignments or the quizzes or the surveys is really so that we can be assured that both you and I are on the same page, that you're understanding what I'm teaching, that you're really being able to understand and apply the information. So it's not about a grade, it's not about pass or fail, it's really about a great way to communicate about the information and the learning that's been going on. Sometimes I'll present to you different websites to look at or different articles to review. This is really just to enhance your experience and give us more of an opportunity to feel like we're possibly in a classroom together, even though we could be hundreds or thousands of miles apart. You have the ability to catch up anytime. So the course will stay open for 4 weeks past the conclusion of week 8. So you really have 12 weeks to complete 8 weeks worth of material. And you don't need to report into me every week saying, oh, I didn't get to finish, I need more time. Really, we're looking at the 12-week period as a whole, so you'll be able to submit assignments or sign up for your final exam anytime within that longer period. And then we also host a private discussion forum. And this is a great way for, first of all, for me to put assignments out there or information about assignments. Sometimes if I find an interesting article or something, something I see in a movie that I think that, warrants a second look, or if there's a great awards show on, maybe I'll start a dialogue about the set design. I don't know, all those kinds of things. But also it gives you the opportunity to pose a question that you think might be helpful to the class as a whole. And there's so many amazing students registered in this course from all over the country and all over the world, and each of your perspectives on these topics is so valuable to all of us, myself included. So if one student has a question that might warrant a discussion amongst several of us, amongst several of the students in the class, so that everyone can participate and share their thoughts and opinions, and hopefully everyone can learn from it. And that, folks, is the show. I look forward to hopefully learning with many of you as this course begins. Thank you so much.